Hello and welcome back to my garden. It is a warm and humid day out here today, but thankfully it's very cloudy. So today I'm going to be doing a lot of planting. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a mixed variety of planting or really anything super interesting, but it will be a project that needs to get done, and I want to get it further along than where it is now. And if the title didn't give it away, you'll see in a second. But first, check this out. These are two different edging pieces that I've finished, and I've kind of dialed in the whole formula, and I'll be doing a video on that soon about creating your own edging, decorative edging I should say. This piece here it's a little lighter than the terracotta I would like, but it's pretty much zeroed in. I want it a little darker, so next batch I make, I know what the formula should be now, I hope. But I'm really liking the terracotta look. This is the plain gray, plain concrete. And the plan with this border right here is they'll basically be where they are now, but I will not only be planting them or sticking them into the ground, but I'll be creating sort of a mow strip, as it were, and also a walkway with these 16-inch pavers. Hence the reason the 16-inch paver is here. So they'll run all along the border. So as I come walking out of the veg garden, I can walk along this concrete paver border as opposed to the soft wet grass or the walk all the way out around to the driveway kind of thing. And I find myself walking along the bushes here, or along the fence line here, as I'm going between point A and point B generally. So this has almost become sort of a natural walking path. So I think it'll work out that stick these in the ground. It'll help define the space. It'll keep the grasses from growing into the border, and it'll add a nice decorative touch along with the pavers, which will give me a walking path. Plus I won't have to weed whack up against this edging and worry about damaging it, because any weed whacking I do, if I do any, will be out here along the concrete paver here. So like I said, I'll talk more about this in the future. I'm going to do a whole nother video about making these, but that's not for today. Today we're going to be doing some planting, so let's get to that. So as I've mentioned many times before, one of the goals, or one of the things I want to do with this garden, is have the flower garden and the veg garden and a few other spaces surrounded by hedging. It creates a definition of the space. It also gives you something to look at in the wintertime, because even though I'm down here in eastern North Carolina growing zone 8B, a lot of the stuff here in the flower beds just die off, and then this space looks absolutely horrible. It's just this weird blank space. And so if I had something evergreen, i.e. a boxwood hedge growing along here, not only would it help define the space, it would hide a bit of the ugliness that is the flower bed that's not growing during the winter time. So today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to try dropping a bunch of these right in, and I'm going to try to complete this whole section here of the flower bed. So in the front, I already have a sprinter boxwood that I planted a couple of years ago. It's growing quite nicely. Along the street side of the flower garden, I have golden ticket privet, and it's going to take 2 to 3 years to get to a substantial size, which is fine. It's pretty fast growing, and today we're going to finish planting up that whole front border, and I'll show you guys that when we get there. And if I can get this section done here, we'll be that much further ahead. I will still have another section that's behind you guys, vegetable garden side, that I still need to fill in, and I think there's going to be a couple of other gaps, but this will be a huge jump. And if I get these plants into the ground now, I'm pretty confident they'll get a good rooting in. I mean, we're getting into the end of September, but today's 80 degrees, and it's not going to be cooling off anytime dramatically until mid to late November. So I'm going to stop prattling and we're going to start planting. The other thing I'm going to do today, I'll put that there, is I'm going to do some weeding as I'm planting these. And there are a lot of weeds in here. So we're going to see what we can get done. Some of the weeds that I have aren't exactly weeds. They are pine trees. Baby pine trees growing up in the space because, well, I'm under a pine tree. Wax myrtle. It's a native shrub, grows down here like a weed. And of course it spreads itself. The other One of the many other weeds I have is, I think it's called dewberry, if I'm not mistaken. It's a thorny vine here as I crawl through my bed here. There we go. One of the things that I'm going to be planting, what you see currently here, all this grass looking stuff, that is grape hyacinth. And one of the things I'm going to be doing this year is interplanting a bunch of other bulbs into this corner right here. And eventually I will plant something else into this space. As most of the garden, it will evolve. One of the nice things about being underneath a pine tree is I don't have to really worry about mulching this space because of all the pine needles that fall. I do have to clear out some of these pine cones every once in a while. I don't want them getting too thick, as it were. But even the pine cones I can leave. In many ways, this is almost like your forest space where pine needles and pine cones fall down and they wind up basically fertilizing, creating a mulch, and eventually that mulch breaks down in composts and it adds to your soil. If I didn't mention the variety already, this is sprinter boxwood that I'm planting. It grows pretty fast. It's not the perfect boxwood, but it does its job. One of the things I do have to be careful about as I'm digging around and pulling weeds and the such is fire ants. And I just saw down the row there is a nest, so I'm going to have to deal with that in a minute. Now, many of these, as you can see, all of these boxwoods that I'm planting today are quite small, but being in the ground, they'll get more nutrients, more moisture, and they should grow pretty fast, hopefully, over the next few years. Ooh, this one's been in the cup a little too long. It's got a very healthy root system. I'm just going to stick that in the ground there. Throw in some more compost, tuck everything in. And either this winter and or next spring, I'll come back through, of course, and I'll be doing some mulching. More dewberry. For the curious of you, I am planting these about 1 foot apart. 1 foot, 18 inches, thereabouts. I'm not actually measuring. I figure the plants will fill in over time. The sun's coming out, but that's okay. I'm still working in shade. So let's cue the music and get to planting. So unfortunately, I didn't have enough sprinter boxwoods to finish off that one length of the flower bed that I was hoping for. It's okay, because I think I have a couple more that might be able to go into the ground. They might be big enough. If not, I am taking more cuttings. So it's just simply a job that I'll finish next spring maybe, or next fall. We'll have to see how things go. In the meantime, I'm going to finish this front stretch, or this back stretch, as it were, of the flower garden. I don't know if you could tell, the street is behind me. So plan here, as I've mentioned before, is to have a nice 4 foot tall hedge of golden ticket privet. Provide a little privacy, give a little structure to the garden. Now these 5 are going to be planted a little close together. And that's simply because I want this to be a fairly dense hedge. If you think I'm wrong or doing something wrong, please leave those comments below. Why do I feel like I'm being, oh, because I have ants on me. Because I'm kneeling right next to an ant pile. There you go. They have fire ants, they're wonderful. So I'm going to hopefully stop being bit by these guys. So I'm going to get these 5 planted in. They're going to be fairly densely planted because I want this to be a sort of living fence against the deer. So hopefully they won't push through it into the flower garden. There's other ways into the flower garden, but if they're coming from the street, wow, I just burrowed into a large nest of fire ants. One of the reasons I wear gloves, and I'm wearing thick gloves today, so that hopefully I don't get bit on the hands. Being bit on the hands is probably the worst. I've already get bit on the legs. They actually bit me or stung me through the pants. They actually sting, they don't bite. And surprisingly, even though I just made this section of bed this year, the soil here is pretty good. So I'm just dropping these in. I can't remember when I took these cuttings, probably last year. That pressed in good, add a little more compost. And the golden ticket privet seems to be very hardy and holds up very well to pretty much any soil condition and or. So for instance, I have it growing over in the rose garden and looks like we might get rain soon. Anyways, looks like I have it growing over in the rose garden, and the rose garden gets very damp when we get heavy rains. And it doesn't seem to mind. So when we had the drought in November, they got very little rain because their roots run deep, if I'm not mistaken. I know they're not shallow because I planted all around them. Well, there's a lot of pine bark mulch here. I tried to mulch some of these areas fairly thickly, but that's okay. This is why I bring the compost. Oh, it feels like we're going to get rain. See that side, and then I'll tucked in, and I can pull back the mulch. The mulch that I put down is really for moisture control, less weed control, because I've had weeds push up through 8-10 inches of mulch and wood chips, and this is to be the last one. That tucked in. Pull that back. There we go. You don't see Laura from Garden Answer getting messy like this. So now we go from corner all the way down to the other corner. And we go from this corner all the way down to almost that corner. You can see where there's a gap. And I still have to plant from this corner right on down over to that group of boxwoods down there, which I had planted out last year. And you can already see how big they've gotten. So I got something that I've been wanting to do done. Like I said, I might have a couple more sprinter boxwoods ready to go on the bench over behind me over here. But I'm not going to bore you with that today because I think I've already bored you enough. But well, I did get a significant chunk of the sprinters that I wanted to get planted out. And as they grow up over the next few years, it'll really start shaping and defining the space yet even more. And that front or back of the flower garden, front of the street, whatever you want to call it, that area right there with those golden ticket privets, I'm suspecting probably in this is going to be technically year 1, 2, 3. Probably in year 3, I'll be pruning them. They'll probably be about 2 to 3 feet high. And by year 4, they'll be 6 foot if I let them grow out that high. I'm going to try to keep everything at 4 foot around the flower garden. The space next to the flower garden, I'm currently designing and developing in my head, and I'm starting to draw out some plans and designs. And I'm thinking of doing 6 foot Yupon hedging. Yupon's a native plant in North America. I think it's primarily found here in the southeast United States. Allegedly fast growing. I have one coming in the mail soon. Going to use it as my test guinea pig. I'm going to put it either in the ground. I think I'm going to put it in the ground, and we'll see what it does. If it survives the winter, which it should, and see how fast it grows next year. If it grows as fast as they claim, 1 to 2 feet per year, I could start taking cuttings from it next year and then using those to plant out my 2 hedges that I would like to grow. So the next garden space next to the flower garden will be 30 feet wide, and on either side 6 foot tall Yupon hedges. This is the plan, this is the goal. Plans change, like many things in life. Did I mention it's hot out? If you haven't checked out any of the links below, check out those links below. I always say this, you guys know what to do. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Thank you to all the new subscribers who have subscribed to the channel. Tell your friends, families, loved ones, grumpy old guy across the street about this channel. I'm growing a garden here in Eastern North Carolina, growing zone 8B. It's hot. I'm gonna go find some air conditioning. I'm gonna catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.